Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to do a short video showing you how to harvest and sow the Gemmae off of your Drosera. So I did a video like this, I think last year actually, and I sowed, I think it was some Speleos and the Mani cross miss it or Rosanna, I'm not really sure, I haven't looked back at that video. But I got those and I got them out of like packets rather than from harvesting actually from plants. So the plants have now done like their yearly cycle and now they're producing Gemmae themselves. So the ones that I got last year have now obviously produced the next generation. So I think it would be nice as well to do an update-y kind of video showing that, in the fact that obviously the plants I got and other Pygmy Sundews that I received during the year have now made their own Gemmae, so I can show everybody else how to see the Gemmae on the plant and how to harvest and sow it for themselves. So I'm excited about doing this, and it's way overdue, most of the plants. So most of them have had Gemmae for a long time now, and the Gemmae is starting to come away from the plant and the plantlets are starting to grow on top of the plants, and obviously I want to sow that. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, as just like a nice short video. So I'm just going to get on with that and do that now. Okay, so before I start I thought I'd just show my Drosera Pygmy Sundew collection. So there isn't much variety, I guess, in my collection, but I'll just go through the ones that I've got here and just to show you what the Gemmae looks like. So the ones that I sowed last year, which were these Pygmy cross Nitidula, I think it's the pronunciation, I'm terrible at pronunciation, so that's probably wrong. They didn't do so well actually in the individual pots when I sowed all the Gemmae in here. They started off really well and then look a little bit like this, so they're not looking that great. I did transplant some, which you're not meant to do, but I did them when they were quite young into this pot, because they've got such a small fragile root. They only have one long root, these Pygmy Sundews, so once they are planted in a pot they stay in that pot for life. But I did pot up these and they did amazingly well once established, and as you can see they are looking a bit messy now, but these were the ones that all flowered at the same time. I cut all the flowers off and they're flowering once again and also producing Gemmae, so I guess it's their last kind of stand of the year. So this one on the end is a great example of the Gemmae. So in the middle of the plant you can see the Gemmae here, and it's all starting to come away from the plant where I obviously haven't harvested it, but the Pygmy cross here does have disc kind of shaped Gemmae, where different plants have different shaped Gemmae. So I've got a Rosanna here, if we just move that flower. The Rosanna here and here have like a more rounded bud there. So there's another example of the Pygmy cross there. So you can see they're like little discs with the little leaf buds in the middle. So looking really nice and really healthy, and that's what I need to harvest and sow today. So again, it doesn't look like great, but I do have some Mani cross amisses left. So none of them producing Gemmae yet. These two are the best ones here, which got some nice colour shape to them, and they did flower. So I'm just waiting for the Gemmae to form in them, and hopefully I'll be able to get a lot more plants from obviously this one or two plants that I've got left here. So I'm not too worried about just having those, because obviously once the Gemmae is produced, as you saw from the other ones, you would get a lot more plants. Over here looks like a pot of Utriculara, which it technically is, but this is my last surviving pure Pygmy. So this is just Pygmy. It's the first ever Pygmy Sundew that I ever got in my collection. I had loads of these, but unfortunately lost them all, and I am so lucky that one of the Gemmae or something must have dropped in this pot of Utriculara, and it's obviously produced one plant, which this plant's done really well this year and has presented me with loads of Gemmae, which I'm so happy about, because that was the one plant I was disappointed with losing. I've lost a couple of others, but it wasn't as bad as this one, because this is my first Pygmy Sundew, and it's got some nice, shape, nice leaves, and it's got a really lovely orange flower. So this is another one that obviously I'll be potting up, and hopefully I'll be able to get a lot more of these now from this one plant. And finally, my favourite Pygmy Sundew, which I think I've expressed loads of time in the past, is the Drosera Scorpioides. So this is also known as the Shaggy Sundew, and it's the largest of the Pygmy Sundews, and it has this nice upright fashion. But as you can see, it's amazing. So the leaves are like an orangey colour rather than like the traditional pink coloration on them. And as you can see, they just like sparkle in the sun. So just on this angle alone, as you can see, like, I've really got up close to these, but they are amazing how they even trap their prey, like this one here. They just kind of curl around it, but they're a lovely sundew. Haven't produced any Gemmae yet. I had 30 of these originally, so there's another pot at the back here, and I only ever lost one, which was one in this pot, which was just here, and that's gone. So I'm just waiting for these to produce Gemmae. At the moment they don't look like they are showing any signs of slowing down compared to the others, but these are my favourite Pygmy Sundews just for the colour. I really like the orangey colour, which you probably noticed from the Polchella as well, and how much I like that one. But as you can see, this one is the best, and this is the pot I sowed them in, and like they've made little kind of like legs for themselves. That's their one root there, and then they just have this really nice upright fashion there. So no Gemmae on this one yet, but I can't wait for them to actually produce something this year. Okay, so now I am going to start with picking the Gemmae off of this Drosera. So if I just focus that there, you can see this pot has got 6 plants in, and each one of them has got Gemmae, so a couple of them have got more Gemmae than the others. So I don't really have a method that I use to pick off the Gemmae. Some people like tip them to the side and brush them off on like this. I've wet some tissue paper in some rainwater because I was going to put them on here just to show you, but I don't necessarily have a method. Most of the time I just use my hands, pick them off the top of the plant, or I've got some tweezers which I use in the greenhouse for little things, and maybe I'll pick them off with tweezers. I haven't really thought this through, to be honest, but I'm going to try something. So I'm just going to start with, I think I'll try and brush them off on the side. So if I just put them on the side like this, and I don't know if you'll be able to see that, and I'm just going to use the back of the tweezers actually, or even the front, just to pinch them really slightly. Oh, it is working. And because they're so loose already, they're just falling off the plant. Luckily that this plant is right next to the side of the pot, otherwise I'd have to hold this up. And then, as you can see, I have taken the focus. Most of the Gemmae off, there's just 2 left in the middle, from the centre of the plant. So it went from looking like this to like this, and I've got all the Gemmae now on this tissue. So from that one plant I got all of that, and these are all modified leaves of the plant that will produce new plants. So each one of these little buds will produce a new plant. So it's like a little but yeah, it's like a little leafy bud in the middle of the plant. So they're not like seeds, they can't let to be dried out. If you obviously send them through the post, you have to send them out on wet tissue like this one, or if you receive them you must expect them to be wet like this, because they are living parts of the plant. So these need to be sowed immediately on wet soil and obviously never let dry out. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. So I've put them on the wet tissue just to show you how many you can get just for that tiny one plant. So they're very small plants, but they give you a lot of obviously new plants. That's why a lot of people at this time of year especially will sell them. So this is a great time of year if you're looking for some Pygmy Sundews to buy them from Gemmae. Super easy. This is the best way to grow your Pygmy Sundews. So I'm just going to show you now how to pot them up. So I'm going to use a 8.5cm square pot. So from last year when I was using all round pots, I like to use square pots because they are best to fit in the trays and they basically optimise the space. Especially with me now having so many plants, it's hard for me to find space, so circle pots obviously don't work as well. So I'm going to use this nice tall pot. So remember that obviously they have that one long root, so their root system is quite long. So look for a nice pot that is obviously reasonably deep and obviously be able to fit quite a few in. So people use like larger, wider pots. But now I'm just going to use a couple of these pots to fill up the same tray that I used last year that I had them in. So I've prepared a mix. I'm using peat and perlite. I have used peat and like sand mixes before. I think the rest of the ones that I've got here are in a peat and sand mix. But because I use peat and perlite for practically all my mixes, I just thought instead of, you know, making up sand and stuff, I'm going to use the peat and perlite mix. I'm going to put a bit more in that, but I can't scoop up any more. So I'm just going to quickly pause the video and fill up that pot. So I've levelled the pot out nicely with the soil now, so you see obviously the mix on top. And I'm just now going to moisten the soil all the way through. So before you put the Gemmae on, you want to wet the soil, because obviously if you put the Gemmae on and then water it, a little bit like seeds, they will just flush off the top. So I'm just going to do that now. So I've just wet the soil all the way through. I did sprinkle a really thin layer of peat over the top, because as you water, all the perlite does come to the surface. And I know it doesn't affect the plants, but I just like to have like a nice smooth surface. Put the Gemmae on, a little bit like with seeds as well. Sometimes I just sprinkle a thin layer of peat just so it makes it look better. So then as they root down, obviously the perlite will be there as well. But you still will see it all around the side still. But I just did a really, you know, quick sprinkling, but it's not needed, and obviously you don't need to happen. So I'm going to get the Gemmae that I put on this kitchen roll, and then I am just simply either going to use the tweezers, or probably just use my hands as what I did last time, and they'll work the same. So just pick a method that suits you. So obviously I'm not saying that this is obviously the right method, or there's any right method. Do what obviously you want to work best, and go with that. So as long as obviously you're not handling or being rough with the Gemmae or squishing them, and you're being as gentle as possible, then it's absolutely fine. So with this, I might just well try picking them up with my hands. So they'll probably stick, because my hand's quite moist anyway. So yeah, you can stick to your hand like that, and then I'll either just push them off around the pot, so a little bit like seed sowing, which isn't too bad. So you can space them out afterwards, or if you so desired, I could go around like this. So I could pick up one individually on my finger like that, and then place it in more of an organised kind of pattern. So the Rosanna aren't that big anyway, so as many as you can fit in the pot as desired really. If you only want a couple, then that's fine. I'm just going to put this whole lot of Gemmae from one plant onto soil like so. Probably could be a bit faster with this, but I'm going to take my time. Probably sprinkle a couple in the middle there. Obviously if you want to use tweezers or something because you don't want to touch them, that's fine. And just repeat the pattern until all of the pot is filled. So make sure so they get off your fingers like so. And that's basically it really. So I'm just going to finish, I've just got a couple more, and I'm just going to put them on top of the soil, and then I'll show you what the structure is afterwards. And then this is the result that I got after. So from just that one plant and everything that's on that tissue, I have managed to space them out quite well actually, considering I was just literally picking them up and spacing them on the soil myself. And as you can see, from one plant you got all of this. So come next year, if these all survive, obviously you can imagine how much Gemmae that I would get, because obviously if that's one plant, I've got quite a lot of Rosannas actually. I think we've got 30 of those as well. So I'm really excited about how much Gemmae I managed to get from just one plant. Obviously I don't think I'm going to have enough space to do all of them, so I don't know what I'll do with the rest of them. But that is just a simple rundown of how to harvest and sow the Gemmae onto the soil. So I'll try and get some close-up pictures and maybe put them over the video, because you'll be able to see the little leaf buds starting to form. So a couple of these I noticed as putting onto the soil had already started to grow, so I'll show you what they look like when they first started coming out of the soil. And then obviously all you're left to do after that is draw out a label. I found the old label just now of the ones I did last year. I'm only 3 days out, so it's been a year basically since I last sowed these in I think it was that video that I did the Rosanna. So only 3 days out, and I'm sowing some more Gemmae off of the ones I did last year, so that's quite sweet actually to have that kind of relation. So I'm just going to finish there, and obviously just repeat the same process for the rest of them. I don't know if I'll do that today or if I'll do it another day, but it does need to be done. And that is basically a rundown of how to sow and harvest the Gemmae off your plants. Okay, so that gives you a rundown on how to harvest and sow the Gemmae from your Drosera Pygmy Sundews. So I was going to do more, but for some reason the sun goes down really quickly now in the winter, autumn winter. So losing light in the day, and thought that I would call it a day there just before it gets too dark, because by the time I do them all, especially the time that I take, it'll be dark. So that at least gives you a rundown on how to do it on the Rosanna, and then I'll do the rest at a later date. And I'm going to keep these ones in here. Last year I put them in my propagator in the warm, so they grew over the winter under my grow light. But now I'm going to leave them out here, because obviously I've got so many and I'm going to put so many in pots. So I'm going to let it do its thing over the winter. It would just mean it's a bit slower, but they're perfectly fine to be out here. And it'll be nice to see how they establish being outside, rather than last year starting them off in the propagator. So I might bring actually a couple in, but I haven't decided yet. So one last thing I'm going to say, I don't want to talk about the shop in every video, obviously because it will get boring, but I'm just going to say now that me and Jerry have decided to do a sale. So tomorrow's date, so the 11th of November, we are doing a 11% off sale. So the minimum order is £11, and basically tomorrow just go onto the shop if you want to do an order, and you will get 11% off of your order, as long as obviously the minimum spend is £11. So the code you need to remember is remember11, so remember all the 11s on the 11th. So yeah, if you want to do an order tomorrow, then you could get 11% off, which would be quite nice. And that's all I've got to say for that really, but I won't talk about the shop too much in all the videos because I don't want it to get boring or repetitive. But that's all I've got to say today, so thank you very much for watching and I hope you enjoyed this video.